Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons, or the Joy-Cons 2. I've got some good news and bad news for you about them, and the good news might not be as good as you think if you don't like being inconvenienced. It turns out the joysticks in the Joy-Cons 2 are still very similar to the original Joy-Cons, which means they're still susceptible to Joy-Con drift. There are a few teardown videos on YouTube going over the new joysticks, and if you're interested in them and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I just find this super unfortunate. I don't know if Nintendo didn't learn anything from the original Switch Joy-Cons or what. It seems they may have spent some money doing some R&D to redesign the joysticks a little bit, but ultimately they're still the same type of joystick and probably still really susceptible to Joy-Con drift, or joystick drift. We'll have to wait and see on that one though. But overall here, I think they could have easily spent the money instead of on R&D for redesigning the joystick to just use Hall Effect or TMR joysticks and stick those in. I don't know, maybe the magnet on the side of the Joy-Con would have interfered. I've got no idea yet. But let me know your thoughts about this one. The good part about this situation, and I wouldn't say it's good if you don't like being inconvenienced, but the silver lining here is that Nintendo will replace drifting Joy-Con 2 controllers for free. So it seems Nintendo is already aware there may be a problem here and has already set something up. It's great that this is free, but I mean, at the same time, why? Why does this need to be a thing in today's day and age? There are ways around Joy-Con drift. I wish they figured something out. And speaking about Joy-Con drift and teardowns, next up here is just a friendly heads up. And one of the videos we showcased in the previous segment was from iFixit. And iFixit did a teardown of the Switch 2 and rated the overall repairability of it. And it didn't do too well. Probably not surprising. So they say here the Switch 2 earned a repairability score of 3 out of 10, which means we think people really ought to get some experience under their belt before tackling a repair. And that is, well, that's just par for the course. Now, don't get me wrong here. I am not defending Nintendo, and I'm a huge fan of the right to repair, but I can kind of understand why this may be difficult to repair just in general. It's a lot of tech packed into a very small form factor. It's pretty complex. But at the same time here, Nintendo probably could have taken some measures to make it a little bit easier to repair. However, that might have resulted in maybe increased cost on this already expensive device. Who knows? But when you take a look at the Steam Deck, and I would argue how easy that is to repair, this is just on a different level. It's a lot more difficult and maybe unnecessarily so. And speaking about the Switch 2, next up we're talking about Nintendo Switch 2 hacking. Now in yesterday's video we talked about the day one hacking situation that was discovered on the Switch 2. And it seems as if progress has been made, but also progress will be difficult to be continuing to be made moving forward. So here is some of the summary. They say this is a potential first entry point based on a save file from a Switch 1 game. Curious to see if that can or will be patched out. Currently, the entry point seems very difficult to exploit because of the console's PAC protections, not to mention ASLR and all that crap. To put it simply, PAC is a hardware security system that signs pointers with a private key. DCP impossible to falsify, inject arbitrarily. This is a huge constraint on the rest of the ROP chain, as ROP needs to move to certain places in the code to create a real exploit. For the moment, we're not very advanced, and in my opinion, it's likely to be extremely complicated, impossible to go through an ROP chain with this thing. So my take on this one is pretty simple and straightforward. Hacking started on day one. They made a ton of progress, I would say, on day one. Is it fully hacked? Is everything nice and simple? No. But at the same time here, it doesn't mean that this is impossible. It just means that it's a process to get to where they need it to be or where they'd like it to be. And that is completely understandable, but I will say the hacking community is extremely clever, extremely smart, and I'm assuming they're going to figure something out here. I mean, this to me already is promising based on the progress they made on day one. If you're interested in learning more about Switch 2 hacking like we talked about in yesterday's video, I'd recommend checking out David Buchanan's Blue Sky. I mean, there's a lot of very interesting information on this, and they're the ones that were responsible for the initial hacking of the Switch 2 via ROP. Overall, they say it's a useful starting point for further research, and I'm very curious to see what comes next. And speaking about pleasant or unpleasant surprises, depending on how you wanted to look at this one, apparently here it's being reported over on Games Radar that Nintendo has freed the F-bomb, and you can swear in Switch 2 speech-to-text game chat. And I'm kind of surprised about this given the fact that it's Nintendo, family-friendly Nintendo. If you wanted to learn more about that situation, including some test cases, I'd recommend checking out the article. I'm kind of surprised about this one, and I'm curious to know if there is a filter. I'm certain there's got to be a filter for the younger audience to filter that stuff out. But at the same time, I mean, this is an interesting direction from Nintendo, and I'm wondering if they're trying to make the Switch 2 more appealing to a broader base of users. Including swearing, I think might. And speaking about swearing and the Switch 2, next up we're talking about 8BitDo and the Switch 2. Now, if you had an 8BitDo controller and you were trying to pair to the Switch 2, you could get it to pair but no inputs to register, anything like that. Well, that's because the firmware needed to be updated. There seem to have been a lot of people frustrated with 8BitDo controllers on the Nintendo Switch 2. And now 8BitDo or 8BitDo, or subscribe to Mr. Sujano, depending on how you wanted to pronounce that one, has released brand new firmware to update their flagship controllers. Now, at this point in time, it's not for every one of their controllers, but they've updated the Ultimate 2 Bluetooth controller, the Ultimate Bluetooth controller, the Ultimate 2C, the 2C Bluetooth, the Pro 2, I'm a big fan of that one, the SN30 Pro, also a big fan of that one, USB wireless adapter 2 and USB wireless adapter, with more coming soon. So go on ahead and update that firmware if you've got a Switch 2 and an 8BitDo gamepad. And speaking about updates, next up we're talking about not Win Now, but Win Later. And the developer behind Winlator seems to be full steam ahead. So if you have a Mali GPU, you might be excited to know that there may be some good things coming for you. And the title is Mali GPU Progressions and Other Things, and this is right from the developer. So Bruno says, "Hello everyone. First of all, I want to thank everyone for supporting the Winlator project, and I apologize for not being able to respond to everyone. I have added some workarounds in Vortec to make some Direct3D 10 and Direct3D 11 games work on the Mali G68 with DXVK. Please note that this is experimental and the device needs to support the Vulkan extensions features for DXVK to work properly." Bruno included some screenshots of about 4 different games here. So there's Shantae Half Genie Hero, Guacamelee 2, Just Cause 2, and Chasm. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about development, next up we're talking about Anbernic, and this was an interesting announcement from Anbernic. Anbernic AI Assistant explores more possibilities in gaming. Unleashing the future of gaming, explore the power of Anbernic AI. So yes, Anbernic has created Anbernic AI, and yes, they are integrating it with their handhelds. Right now it's for Android-based handhelds, and the specific ones here are the RG Cube, the RG406V, the RG406H, and the RG556. It seems that this AI assistant will have voice chat, image generation, educational tutoring, and AI image editing, as well as something here I think some people might be excited about, and that is the real-time translations. I mean, if you're playing a game that hasn't received a fan translation patch yet, or you didn't want to patch a ROM, this might be extremely useful for those certain games. I would argue, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but Anbernic probably could have done away with all of the other stuff and just included the translations and not even have needed to call it AI. Let me know your thoughts about all of this one in the comments below, and I'll link the video in the description below so you can see everything in action. And speaking about seeing stuff in action, next up we're talking about OutRun on the Game Boy Color. Now, we've talked about this one in the past, first and foremost when development started, and then when the demo released, and now the demo has expanded. So Shane McCafferty is at it again and has added 4 stages to this Game Boy Color game, and something that I'm extremely excited about. I think this game looks absolutely fantastic. And for those curious, this game is up on itch.io. You can play it right in your browser, and Shane has a bunch of other games he's created over the years. And speaking about games, next up we're talking about something you might be excited about if you're a fan of Mario Party but would prefer to play it with Lego. Lego Party has been revealed, and this game to me looks actually pretty interesting and pretty fun. I would say the best part about this is that it's not a console exclusive. Lego Party is releasing 2025 this year, and it's headed to PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC. And speaking about games releasing this year, next up we're talking about a game releasing next year, and something you also might be excited about, and this is Scott Pilgrim EX. It will be launching in 2026, and I think this one also looks really fantastic. If you're a fan of the original Scott Pilgrim game, or if you're a fan of beat-em-ups, this one will probably be right on your radar. For those who may or may not be aware, Summer Game Fest is in full swing, and there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of games being announced, revealed, and showcased. And I'd recommend checking out the Game Awards YouTube channel for a very good look at everything that has been announced. I mean, everything's pretty much a video you can click on if you're interested in seeing it. I could try to cover everything in this video, but this video would be very long because there was a lot that was revealed. But I am curious to know, what was your favorite reveal during the Summer Game Fest so far? Is it something like Mouse for PI? Is it something like the new game from Yacht Club Studios? Is it Resident Evil? Is it something else? I mean, there is quite a bit that was revealed. Unfortunately, Half-Life 3 has not been announced or revealed yet, and I think a lot of people are disappointed about that one, but I mean, I'm used to hearing nothing about Half-Life other than rumors. It almost seems that Half-Life 3 is always just going to be a rumor. Who knows, maybe we'll be surprised at the very end of Summer Game Fest. I doubt it though, but you never know. Either way here, I'm disappointed at not seeing Half-Life 3 or Silksong just yet. But it seems that Silksong may be announced pretty soon. Now, I don't know if this is real or fake. I'm leaning towards real, considering SteamDB even has been updated very recently for this game. Anyway, someone is saying that this popped up on the German PlayStation Store with the translation of releasing shortly. Let me know your thoughts about that one. And last up here, we're talking about Retroid. And Retroid had a surprise announcement the other day that I think a lot of people might be excited about, provided you have the certain devices here that it's compatible with. So Retroid has unveiled the Retroid Dual Screen add-in. They say enjoy dual screen gaming on your Retroid Pocket 5, RP Mini, and RP4 Pro. I would say that this is a pretty cool add-on, and it reminds me quite a bit of the stuff that DNA Mobile Gaming has been producing. Now, I'm not turning this into a controversy or chicken and egg situation or anything like that. But if you're interested in the dual screen look, there is DNA Duo for a bunch of different devices here. And that may be an option or it may not. I haven't used one of these, so I can't vouch for it. But I'm taking a look here, and there are some options out there as well, not limited to the Retroid Pocket. But if you've got a Retroid Pocket, let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below, and would you be interested in the Retroid Dual Screen add-on? But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. She's actually behind me right now in a box in front of the fireplace. I'm not going to bother her because she's really, really cozy. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.